say that that's the worst night's sleep I've ever had. The worst night's sleep I've ever had was in the babe bus, and I know exactly where. That was the worst night's sleep I ever had. But this was a damn close contender. Around midnight, and I look, look at the bags under these eyes. And I was gonna like prep this up a little bit, but this is how it actually is. This is unlike what you've seen in the soy boy man buns running around in bikinis. When you break in a rig or when you're on the road, stuff goes wrong all the time, and you have to know how to fix it or at least know where to find help, or you get to suffer. And I did both in one night. Around midnight, I went to plug in my camera gear to charge everything up and then get a cup of tea. And if you follow this channel at all for any amount of time, you know that I will take any amount of beating as long as I can have a cup of Earl Grey tea at the end. And none of the plugs worked. So Patreon Deb and I were on the phone after midnight trying to figure it out. Resetting breakers, just trying to, like, everything that you could possibly think of. Turn it on, turn it off. When you put the bed out in a Thor 18M, there is no room here. So just getting to the breaker box, you had to crawl underneath the bed. The entire thing is the bed, which I will revert back to my long-running advice that I would never, ever, ever full-time RV or van in any kind of setup where you have to turn the couch into a bed. It's such a pain in the ass. This is fine because this is my mobile office and I will do trips for a variety of things, but I'm not relying on the bed. When you have your whole space is taken over by you're just constantly crawling over. I have no idea how two people stay in vans. No, he'd have to get his own van and stay back there and just knock on the door and maybe I'll answer, maybe I won't. But we could not get the plugs to work. And then I realized that the microwave wasn't working. And then I realized that I didn't have air conditioning and it is blazing hot and it's super humid. I'm in South Carolina. So it's like that 360 days of the year. Thankfully, I went on to the ownership group on Facebook, and I will say they are a gold mine. Whatever rig you have, whatever kind of van conversion you're doing, find the owners group on Facebook because they've all been through it. They've already done the stupid things that you will do. And it was like 12:30 in the morning. And I put a message up. I said, I can't figure out what's going on here. And this guy starts, going back and forth and just being very generous and trying to help. His name was Tommy, and he's like, well, try this and try that and try that. And then around like 1 o'clock in the morning, we figure out that the generator breaker has been flipped. And so I have to reset it. Well, the problem with that is that the generator breaker is underneath the rig and it's very late. And I just said, you know what, Tommy, I am not going to deal with this right now. Like, I'm just going to sweat through the night. So I didn't really have much power in here. I did have the fan, and I was amazed at how cool the fan alone kept the whole rig, so that was nice. But the real reason that it was such a horrible night's sleep, and we all joke in the RV community about how atrocious RV mattresses are, because they're terrible. The cushions on this, I would have sooner slept out on the pavement. I mean, rock hard. So I've seen a lot of owners get memory foam and cut it and make their own cushions, and I thought, oh, that seems unnecessary. I bet it's not that bad. No, it's worse. It's so much worse. So that is a mod that's going to have to happen before I travel again, because I woke up and like I had a straight spine and my spine was just like it was terrible. It was really bad. It's so important to figure out how to get a good night's sleep when you're on the road. The thing that I perhaps failed most in on this trip, because you're starting your day and you're exhausted already, or you've sweat through the night like I have. And so it's a real quick way to burn out on the road. I'm already like, get me back to my memory foam, my weighted blanket, my air conditioning, and my couch. But this is fine. This is exactly why I did this trip, because I've never had a rig with this many bells and whistles and I need to learn how to use it. So this morning at like 7:30, I'm down underneath the rig in a Walmart parking lot trying to find this breaker, and it's really convoluted, and I'm tiny and I had a very hard time, but I flipped it. Tommy and I high-fived over the phone, and now everything works, which is great. But the thing I thought was interesting We figured out that Tommy works at a sheriff's office in Florida. And I was like, of course you do. Of course you work at a sheriff's office, because I had my knight in shining armor at the Georgetown PD who helped me get through my first night. And now I have Tommy from a sheriff's office in Florida. So let's read the chapter. Let me try to find it. The chapter that corresponds to the first morning waking up in this exact Walmart parking lot. Last night there was a full moon over Walmart. It was just beautiful. Just so beautiful. Okay, back to 2018. All right, so I slept surprisingly well despite my nerves and a 50-degree temperature inside. That would prove to be the Fahrenheit sweet spot for van sleeping without ventilation. Above 60, the unventilated air would get swampy. In the 40s or below, made for frosted toes. Right now, it's about 70 some odd outside with the fan shut and the AC off. It's sweltering in here, and it feels exactly how it felt in the van. Terrible. Throughout that first night, I still made my 2 customary trips to the potty, unavoidable for someone who drinks 3 full cups of Yeti Earl Grey tea throughout the day and 1 right before bed. I couldn't have tea last night, and the potty was fine, only my feet don't touch the ground, so I have to rest them on the grill. I kind of had it easier back in 2018. If I had any hesitation about peeing into a plastic bucket full of Fresh Step, that ended promptly when the need to go arrived, and I knew the only other option was to walk across the parking lot in the middle of the night in the dark. The first time I hit my head on the ceiling was when I climbed up into the platform bed. The second time, I nearly kicked over Lay Shitter while getting back into the mattress. With the arrival of the sun came the first opportunity to survey the efficacy of my human cat litter box. Maybe after use, I should have put a foot inside and kicked back to engage the clumping effect. Maybe I didn't put enough litter in. Maybe this was a really stupid idea. A cat's bladder is perhaps the size of a golf ball. My bladder was obviously the size of at least one of those Yeti cups. As I lifted the trash bag to tie and seal it, the plastic stretched and strained under the weight of the now heavy, soggy cannonball of pee-drenched litter. Where the hell were the van life Instagram models on this one? All plans of discreetly tossing the bag into a nearby trash can sunk as fast as the bag did back into the bucket. Side note, when I announced my plans for waste management on YouTube, it garnered plenty of fragile responses about the environmental horrors of tossing plastic bags of doo-doo into the trash. I don't entirely disagree, though that feedback should also then be shared with every parent on the globe currently offloading multiple diapers a day into our landfills, and most every pet owner doing the same. Mortified and not ready to solve this particular issue, I decided a cup of tea was needed for clarity, but I was still too afraid to use the propane stove. Peeling back a window cover, I saw the dense fog had covered the Walmart parking lot, and my officer was gone. I slid back the side door just enough to lay the stove on the ground, tucking it slightly under the van. Quickly sliding the door back like a hermit crab retreating into its shell, I filled up my kettle and sat crouched on the floor, peeping out the door to watch for a 5-alarm fire. If anyone played witness to this morning, all they saw was a small hand stretching in and out of a windowless cargo van preparing tea on a swath of pavement. Teeth brushed, face washed, human kitty litter tied tight, and hurled into a dumpster, it was back to Anytime Fitness to generate some heat. My fob would get me into any location nationwide, and I still felt the need to announce my arrival. Hi, I'm Casey, visiting from Wilmington. I just need a quick... And she cut me off. How long have you been in the van? I felt seen. Had she spotted me making cold broccoli the day before? Did a public safety bulletin go out from the police department about a vagabond lurking around Georgetown? Did I really smell like a hobo? Unable to find a response besides staring at her, she pointed out the window to the babe bus to help our conversation along. How long have you been on the road? Not long. How did you know? Just looks like a van conversion. Totally cool. I've always wanted one. I follow a bunch of van lifers on Instagram. Side windows be damned. The rooftop fan and HVAC were a dead giveaway. Keep that in mind, future van lifers, as you make painstaking steps to remain stealth. You are most definitely not. There is nothing stealth, sneaky, or undercover about a van conversion camping. People know you're in there. They just don't care. They have their own problems. This fact will remain true for the rest of this story, so save yourself some time and money. She showed me where the showers were. I followed, feeling exposed and disappointed that I had to. Let's see if any of this is okay. So I'm gonna stop here because the rest of this gets into the history of Georgetown. But yeah, I had an easier morning with less frills. It was also the temperature. The temperature made a huge difference. The kitty litter I ended up abandoning pretty quickly. It was too heavy, and it literally did make a cannonball that you'd have to like lob over your shoulder. The toilet in here, it's a cassette toilet. And so I'll have to it has a handle like a suitcase, so I'll have to roll the TT poo-poo down my driveway to back to the house. I don't know that I would full-time with this because I'd have to roll that into a Walmart or roll that into a public restroom, and it's obvious that it either looks like a bomb or a poop Tupperware container. So that part, as long as you're going home regularly, that's fine. My feet, again, did not touch the floor, so I had to rest them up on top of the grill. And then I'll say that there's this toggle back and forth that opens up the actual cassette below. Do not leave that open. Even though there's barely anything in there, gray tanks, black tanks, they just have this stink, and that stink perforated through all of here last night. You absolutely have to break in a rig. Ironically, I did not have to do that with the van conversion because I knew it was bespoke to me. But as they make these things more and more complicated with all kinds of electric, this, that, and the other thing, there's just a lot to learn. And I will say, once you get it, you're fine. And I know I'll be fine in this. But as far as space goes, I think this rig is too small. It's going to be fine as my mobile office. It's going to be totally fine as my mobile office. But for long duration trips, or even an extended weekend, the fact that this whole thing has to flip out into a bed and take up the entire space, I don't know about that. But that's okay, because anyone who's owned a van or an RV long knows that you own many of them over your lifetime because your needs are constantly changing. We survived our first night. Not well, not smelling very nice in the morning, but thanks to Tommy and all our first responders out there who are keeping women like me who like to get in their own way and create their own problems out of trouble. Here's my thing. You have to walk around with this to go dump it out. So you're not going to roll this into Walmart and then dump it out. I mean, I guess a park, I don't know. The nice thing is I have a home base now. So everything gets very precariously. I'm going to tip this over. Everything gets dumped into here, and then it locks, and then you just tip it over and wash it out, and then you're done. Let's see. Confirmed, surprisingly easy. So now I'm just gonna fill it with hot soapy water and clean it out and dump it again. And yeah, not too shabby. Not nearly as efficient or wonderful as the glitter shitter, but I suppose with a little decor, we could come up with a name for this one and give it its own place in history on the internet.